My name is Clara Vance. I'm 34 years old, and for a decade, my entire world was a company called Nexus Solutions, which I built from the ground up. When my phone screen lit up with a text from my brother, Leo, my stomach plummeted. The message was short and brutal. Expect a call from our lawyer. The company I had poured my entire being into, the one where I'd given my family generous shares, but held onto a 51% controlling stake, was being ripped away from me. I just stared at the cold, glowing words. My initial confusion quickly solidified into a sharp, painful clarity I hadn't felt in months. I typed back a single word, understood. They had absolutely no idea what was coming. Before I get into how I completely flipped the script on my backstabbing family, let me know where you're tuning in from, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're here for a story of justice, served cold. The path to creating Nexus Solutions was never part of my plan. Armed with a freshly printed engineering degree, I walked straight into the worst economic downturn in a generation. After 63 rejected job applications and a graveyard of unanswered emails, the reality hit me hard. No one was going to hand me an opportunity. I had to forge one myself. My first headquarters was the dusty, sweltering attic of my parents' house, furnished with a couple of sawhorses, an old door for a desk, and a second-hand computer. My seed money was $5,000, painstakingly saved from summer jobs throughout college. Those early days are a hazy memory of pure survival. I slept on a camping mat next to my desk, showered at the local gym to save precious minutes, and subsisted on a diet of instant noodles and cheap coffee. An 18-hour day spent coding was just my normal routine. When I finally crashed, my dreams were written in lines of code. The first 6 months were an absolute grind. No clients, no income, just a rapidly shrinking savings account and a credit card debt that was climbing higher every day. My parents would occasionally poke their heads into the attic, their faces etched with worry, and gently suggest that maybe it was time to look for a real job again. I'd force a smile and assure them a breakthrough was just around the corner. On some days, I even managed to believe it myself. That breakthrough finally arrived in the form of our first product, a streamlined software for managing small business inventory. What set it apart wasn't just the intuitive interface, but its accessibility. While the big players were charging fortunes for bloated, complex systems, I had built something elegant and simple that a small business owner could actually afford. The day our first 10 customers signed on, I celebrated with my first meal that wasn't made from a dehydrated block in months. It was a simple burger, but it tasted like pure victory. As word of mouth spread and our customer base swelled, it became clear I couldn't keep doing everything on my own. My first hire was Sam, a programming genius I'd connected with at a local tech meetup. Next came Maria, who managed customer service with a natural warmth I could never muster while staring at a screen for 20 hours a day. For the first time, I could actually sleep for more than 4 hours without worrying the whole enterprise would crumble. When we reached 100 customers, we upgraded to our first real office. It was a tiny, cramped space above a laundromat that always smelled faintly of detergent, but it was ours. We had a sign on the door and everything. And that's when I made the fateful decision that would ultimately set the stage for my own downfall. I brought in my family. Leo, my younger brother with a business degree, seemed like the perfect person to manage our expanding finances. My sister, Sophie, with her marketing expertise, could amplify our message. And my cousin, Mark, who had a solid background in sales, could build our client roster faster than I ever could alone. I offered them generous equity packages, 10% each, while I held my 51% controlling share. The other 19% was distributed among my early, loyal employees and a few seed investors. "Clara, this is life-changing," Leo had said, pulling me into a hug after he signed his contract. "I will never forget this. I won't let you down." "We're going to build a family legacy," Sophie had promised, her eyes shining with excitement. Those words would echo in my mind for years, a bitter reminder of their betrayal. The next few years were a whirlwind of relentless growth. Our single piece of software evolved into a comprehensive suite of business tools. Our customer list grew from the hundreds into the thousands. Our annual revenue shot past 1 million, then 5, then 10 million. We kept moving into bigger offices, eventually taking over 3 floors of a downtown high-rise with our logo proudly displayed out front. Through it all, I never lost the grit that started the company. We could afford a full staff now, and I no longer slept on the office floor, but I was still the first one in and the last one out. My personal life was practically non-existent. I missed friends' weddings for product launches. Dadding was a series of brief encounters squeezed between major projects. The idea of having kids was a far-off dream, filed away under someday. Alex came into my life in our 8th year. He was a kind, patient man who, for some reason, understood my all-consuming dedication to Nexus Solutions. "Go build your empire," he'd tell me. "I'll be here." Looking back, he saw what I was blind to. My family was systematically taking advantage of my singular focus on the work. The warning signs started as whispers, easy to dismiss. Leo would casually suggest restructuring a department I was running to optimize efficiency. Sophie would mention offhand that some clients found me a little too intense in meetings. Mark wondered aloud if my deep technical knowledge was holding back our broader vision for expansion. "Maybe you should just focus on the product side and let us handle the business strategy," Leo suggested one day in a leadership meeting. "You look exhausted, Clara." I brushed off their comments, telling myself it was just the normal friction of a rapidly growing business. I trusted them. They were family. And family doesn't betray you, or so I thought. The dinner with Omni Corp should have been a slam dunk. They were poised to be our biggest client ever, a national retail chain wanting to completely modernize their digital systems. After months of hard work, this dinner was meant to be the final handshake before the contracts were signed. I got to the steakhouse early, going over key points with my team. Leo, Sophie, and Mark strolled in 15 minutes late. I knew instantly that something was wrong. They had that look of people who had just stopped a private conversation the moment they saw me. "Sorry, last-minute prep," Leo said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Throughout the meal, as I laid out our technical implementation plan for the Omni Corp team, Leo kept interrupting me. "What my sister is trying to say is," he would begin, "or while Clara is the expert on the coding side, our executive team has a more comprehensive vision." By the time dessert arrived, I felt like a ghost at my own table. When the OmniCorp CEO asked about our 5-year plan, Leo answered before I could even open my mouth. "We're pivoting towards enterprise-level solutions," he announced confidently. "The small business market that Clara originally built this on was a great start, but we've outgrown that vision." Outgrown my vision? I almost choked on my water. It was the first I was hearing about abandoning the very customers who had made our success possible. On the ride back to the office, I confronted him. What was that about outgrowing our core market? Leo shot a quick look at Sophie in the back seat. "It's just business talk, Clara. OmniCorp wants to hear that we're thinking big." That's a massive strategic shift to announce without even talking to the CEO, I shot back. "You've been so buried in the technical details," Sophie added from the back. "We didn't want to bother you with every little discussion." Every little discussion, like completely changing the fundamental direction of my company. That night, I stayed late, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. Around 9:00 p.m., I walked to the break room for coffee and heard Sophie's voice coming from the main boardroom. The door was slightly ajar. "Clara is a genius with the product, but she's becoming a liability in these high-stakes client meetings," she was saying. "She's just too attached to where we started. We need someone more flexible leading the charge. The board is worried too, Mark's voice chimed in. They're asking if we need a more seasoned CEO to take us to the next level. I froze, my coffee mug hovering in midair. The board was talking about replacing me. Since when were my family members having secret talks with our board of directors? In the weeks that followed, the pattern became undeniable. Calendar invites for critical meetings would show up on my schedule at the last minute, or sometimes not at all. Sorry, it was a last-minute thing, was the standard excuse. Major decisions about hearing or new market ventures were presented to me as fates accomplis, needing only my rubber stamp. When I tried to push back, I was met with sighs and comments like, "We went over this last week, Clara. Don't you remember?" I started documenting everything, a habit from my engineering days that I sensed might become crucial. The gaslighting was so persistent that I began to question my own sanity. The stress was eating me alive. I lost 15 pounds in 2 months. Sleep was a luxury, replaced by 3:00 a.m. anxiety attacks. I developed a nervous twitch in my eye that no amount of makeup could conceal. I'd catch my reflection on video calls and see a hollowed-out, tense version of myself, a ghost of the founder I once was. Of course, Alex noticed. "You have to confront them," he urged me one night as I pushed food around my plate, unable to eat. "This is your company, Clara. Don't let them make you feel crazy." He was right. The next morning, I called Leo into my office and shut the door. "I need to know what is going on," I said, my voice firm. "I'm being left out of meetings, decisions are being made behind my back, and I've heard talk about replacing me as CEO." Leo's face showed a flash of shock before he composed it into a mask of concern. "Clara, you're being paranoid. The pressure is getting to you." "Don't you dare gaslight me, Leo. I know what I heard." He sighed, leaning forward with a look of feigned sympathy. "Look, we've all noticed you've been struggling. The company is bigger now, more complicated. Maybe you just need a break, a sabbatical to recharge. We can hold down the fort while you're gone." A chill ran down my spine. A sabbatical. If I stepped away, even for a short time, I knew I would never get back in. My conversations with Sophie and Mark were eerily similar, filled with the same concerned looks and gentle suggestions that I just needed some rest. It felt like I was trapped in a psychological thriller where the people closest to me were trying to convince me I was losing my mind. In a final, desperate attempt to fix things, I tried giving them more power and public credit. I praised Leo for financial strategies that were my own. I let Sophie lead major client presentations. I signed off on Mark's proposals without my usual rigorous review. It made no difference. The secret meetings continued. The hushed conversations that died the moment I walked into a room. The sideways glances between them. Something big was coming. I was sure of it. But how? I still owned 51%. They couldn't just vote me out, could they? The trip to San Francisco was supposed to be for a 3-day tech conference. I planned to network, meet with potential partners, and scout the competition. But on the second day, a migraine hit me so hard that I knew I couldn't continue. Without notifying anyone, I changed my flight and flew home a day early. It was almost 8:00 p.m. when my car pulled up to the Nexus Solutions building. I figured the office would be mostly dark, save for a few dedicated developers working late. So I was surprised to see the lights blazing in our main boardroom and several cars I recognized in the parking lot, Leo's, Sophie's, and Mark's. My curiosity piqued. I used my key card to slip in quietly through a side entrance. As I got closer to the boardroom, I heard Leo's voice, full of an unusual excitement. "The documentation is airtight. We've logged every instance where her decisions have cost us opportunities or money." "But she still owns 51%, came the voice of Bernard West, one of our board members. "We can't just fire her." "That's where this comes in," Mark replied. "Our lawyer found a clause in the original founding documents. If a majority of the board finds the CEO is acting against the company's best interests, they can authorize a new share issuance to dilute her controlling stake. My blood turned to ice. They weren't just trying to remove me as CEO. They were plotting to steal my ownership of the company I had built. She's lost her way, Sophie added. Nexus Solutions has outgrown her. She's still running it like a startup when we should be competing with the major players. The engineers might respect her, but the business needs new leadership. And you're sure about these performance problems? Asked Diane Chambers, another board member. We have everything documented, Leo confirmed. Meetings she's missed, clients who have complained about her being too technical, deals we lost because she was too slow to pivot. It's all in this file. I heard the rustle of papers being passed around the table, their meticulously crafted case against me. A decade of my life, and they had been building a file to destroy me. What about the legal fight? Bernard asked. She won't go down easy. That's why we have Patricia, Mark said. I heard a new voice, one I didn't recognize, presumably their lawyer. She's a specialist in corporate restructuring, the new voice explained. We have a few options. The share dilution is the cleanest. We've also found potential breaches of fiduciary duty we can use as leverage. Breaches of fiduciary duty. I had done nothing but sacrifice for this company. And the timeline, Diane asked. We move next week, Leo said with chilling confidence. We call an emergency board meeting, present the case, and hold the vote. Once the board approves the share issuance, we inform Clara. By the time she can mount a legal response, it will be a done deal. She'll be devastated, of course, Sophie added, her voice dripping with a fake sympathy that made me sick. But we'll offer a generous exit package, a ceremonial title like founder and technical advisor. She built this company from nothing, Bernard noted, a hint of discomfort in his voice. Are we sure this is the only way? The company has outgrown her, Leo repeated, his tone final. This isn't personal, it's just business. Not personal. My own family, plotting to steal my life's work behind my back, and it wasn't personal. I'd heard enough. A part of me wanted to storm in there and watch the blood drain from their faces. But the strategic part of my brain, the part that had built a multi-million-dollar company, took over. They didn't know that I knew. That was my power. I backed away silently, slipped out the side door, and left. Once I was in my car a block away, the tears finally came. 10 years. My family, my company, all of it was built on sand. When I was cried out, I drove home in a daze. As I pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed. It was the text from Leo. Expect a call from our lawyer. They were accelerating their plan. Maybe someone had seen me after all. It didn't matter. All that mattered was my next move. I stumbled into my apartment. Alex took one look at my face and knew. I collapsed on the sofa, phone still in my hand, and told him everything, my voice hollow and distant. They can't do this, he said, packing the room. You own the company. They found a loophole, I whispered, the lawyer's words echoing in my head. Dilute my shares. That's insane. You are the company's interests. I just nodded, but my mind was already shifting gears. The shock was being replaced by a cold, hard focus. I picked up my phone. I need to call Eleanor. Eleanor Croft had been my personal lawyer for years. She'd handled our incorporation and our first contracts before we brought legal in-house, a team that was now clearly working for my family. Even though it was nearly 10 p.m., Eleanor answered. I put her on speaker and laid out the situation. Those ungrateful little, Eleanor stopped herself. Okay, let me think. First thing tomorrow, I need every document you have. Bylaws, board minutes, all of it. But Clara, with 51%, you're still in charge. They can't call a board meeting without you. They found some clause, acting against company interests. Those are notoriously hard to enforce against a founder. What's their proof? A file they've been building. Manufactured complaints, exaggerated failures. And the meeting is next week. That was the plan, but Leo just texted me about their lawyer. They're moving faster. Then so are we, Alina said, her voice firm. What's the end game here, Clara? Do you fight to stay, or do you get out with what you've earned? The question floored me. I hadn't even considered leaving. Nexus Solutions was my identity, but the thought of working with people who had betrayed me so completely. I need to think, I said. After the call, I sat in the dark, Alex's hand holding mine. The company I built was being stolen by my own family. The betrayal was a physical pain. What do you want to do? Alex asked softly. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to think like a CEO, not a wounded sister. A fight would be public, messy, and destructive. Even if I won, the company would be scarred, and I'd be surrounded by people I could never trust again. I think I need to let it go, I said, the words tasting like ash. But it's going to be on my terms, not theirs. Sleep was out of the question. I spent the night researching, scribbling notes, and building a plan. By sunrise, fueled by black coffee and a burning resolve, I knew what I had to do. Sterling Dynamics had been our biggest competitor for years. While we served small to medium businesses, they focused on large enterprises. Our products were complementary, not direct rivals. They had approached me about a merger in the past, but I had always refused, determined to stay independent. Independence was no longer an option. At 6:00 a.m., I called David Sterling, the CEO of Sterling Dynamics. We knew each other from industry events, maintaining a respectful but distant professional relationship. Clara, he said, clearly surprised by the early call. Is everything all right? I need to meet with you. Today, in private, it's about an acquisition. There was a short pause on the line. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Meet me at the lounge in the Atherton Hotel at noon. It's quiet. No one from our world goes there. Another pause. I'll be there. I spent the morning with Alina, who showed up at my apartment at 8:00 a.m. with legal documents and a look of fierce determination. We wargamed every possible scenario, every question David might have, every angle he might take. The Atherton's lounge was dark and nearly empty at noon on a Tuesday. I saw David right away. He was tall, with silver hair and always impeccably dressed. He raised an eyebrow when he saw Alina with me but greeted us politely. This must be serious if you've brought your lawyer, he said as we sat in a secluded booth. I'm selling my shares in Nexus Solutions, I said, cutting straight to the point. All 51%. I want Sterling Dynamics to be the buyer. To his credit, David's expression barely changed. May I ask why? The last time we spoke, you were determined to remain independent. Circumstances have changed, I said flatly. Are you interested? Of course I'm interested, but I need to know what I'm buying. Is there a problem with the company? Alina stepped in smoothly. Nexus Solutions is financially robust with excellent growth potential. This is a personal matter on Clara's part. David studied my face for a long moment. Family problems, he stated, more than asked. I kept my face a neutral mask. The terms will require retaining all current staff, with the exception of 3 specific executives who will be given standard severance packages. That will be handled by Sterling Dynamics post-acquisition. Understanding dawned on his face. I see. We spent the next hour in intense negotiation. David was sharp, but he was also fair. By 2:00 p.m., we had a handshake deal. $75 million for my 51% stake, with clauses to protect my key employees and keep the Nexus Solutions brand as a subsidiary. My 3 family members would be terminated, their severance generous but not extravagant. There was one non-negotiable condition. Absolute secrecy until the deal was legally closed. No one could know. Not my family, not the board, not even my most trusted colleagues. "We can fast-track this," David said. "I'll have the papers drawn up by tomorrow morning. We can have the funds transferred by noon." "Perfect," I replied, a strange calm settling over me. "And David, thank you." He gave a slight shake of his head. "Don't thank me. This is a fantastic business move for Sterling Dynamics. I'm just sorry it's happening at such a high personal cost for you." That was the longest night of my life. I lay awake next to Alex, replaying the last 10 years in my head. The attic, the ramen, the triumphs, the trust, the betrayal that had shattered it all. "Are you sure?" Alex whispered in the dark. "Yes," I said. "They gave me no other choice." At 7:00 a.m. the next morning, I met David and our lawyers at his attorney's office. The stack of paperwork was immense, but the terms were clear. With every signature, I felt a piece of my old self fall away. At 11:58 a.m., David's phone buzzed. He looked at it and nodded. The wire transfer was complete. Nexus Solutions was no longer mine. "It's done," he said quietly. I nodded, feeling impossibly light. "The press release will go out at 2:00 p.m. "Yes, my team will handle the communications from here." I shook his hand, thanked Alina, and walked out into the bright sunlight. For the first time in a decade, I had nowhere to be. No fires to put out, no company to run. I pulled out my phone and looked at Leo's text from the night before. "Expect a call from our lawyer." After a moment, I typed my reply. "Understood." Then I drove to the Nexus Solutions building one last time. It was the lunch hour. I knew Leo, Sophie, and Mark would be at their favorite restaurant, plotting my demise over an expense account lunch. The irony was almost funny. I used my key card for the last time, went to my office, and packed my few personal items into a small box. A few photos, some awards, the coffee mug my first employee ever gave me. So little to show for so much of my life. As I walked out, I nodded to the receptionist. "Have a good day, Tara." She smiled back, oblivious. "You too, Ms. Vance." I placed my key card on her desk. I won't be needing this anymore. I was sitting in a small, anonymous cafe 3 blocks away when my phone buzzed at exactly 2:00 p.m. It was a news alert. Breaking. Sterling Dynamics acquires controlling interest in Nexus Solutions. The press release was out. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. "Leo," I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Then Sophie, declined. Mark, declined. Then the texts began. "Leo, what have you done? Call me now." Sophie, "Clara, please tell me this isn't real." Mark, "You can't do this to us, to your family." The hypocrisy of that last one almost made me laugh out loud. I silenced my phone, finished my coffee, and walked to a hotel where I'd booked a room for the night. I knew they'd show up at my apartment. By the time I got to my room, I had 17 missed calls. By dinner, it was 25. My voicemail was full, their tones shifting from shocked to furious to desperate as the reality set in. I ordered room service and finally listened to a few. Leo's first message was tight with rage. "What the hell, Clara? You sold your shares without talking to us. Call me back." Sophie's was tearful. "How could you do this? We're your family. Please, just call me so we can fix this." Mark tried to sound reasonable, but the panic was obvious. "Mel, there's been a massive misunderstanding. We need to talk." The later messages were more frantic, as they must have learned the details. Leo again. "Sterling is saying we're being let go. They can't do that. I have a contract." Sophie, now sobbing. "Please, Clara, I have a mortgage. I have car payments. I need my job. We can fix this. I know we can." Mark, his mask of reason gone. "You backstabbing, you will regret this. We're family. You don't do this to family." That last one stung. I don't do this to family. Not after what they planned for me. Around 8:00 p.m., an email from David landed in my inbox. Clara, transition is underway. Your family members have been notified of the changes. As expected, they are not handling it well. They've made legal threats, but our counsel confirms their position is baseless. Security is on site. Let me know if you need anything. David. At 9:17 p.m., my building's front desk called. Ms. Vance, your brother and sister are in the lobby demanding to see you. They're very agitated. Should I let them up? No, I replied calmly. I am not available. Please ask them to leave the property, or you will have to involve the police. Understood, ma'am. I could picture the scene perfectly. Leo, red-faced and furious. Sophie, a mess of tears. The family emergency routine had always worked for them when we were kids. Not anymore. By midnight, the calls had finally stopped. My phone's log was a testament to the chaos. 38 missed calls, 27 voicemails, 52 text messages. A decade of work gone in a single day. A lifetime of family bonds shattered. I should have been heartbroken. Instead, all I felt was a deep, bone-weary exhaustion, and beneath it, a tiny flicker of relief. It was over. They couldn't hurt me anymore. The next morning, the industry news was buzzing. Most articles were straightforward. Sterling Dynamics expands with strategic acquisition asterisk. A few hinted at the real story. Nexus Solutions founder sells controlling stake, family executives ousted asterisk. David called me mid-morning. The transition team is in place. Your family members have been escorted from the building. The rest of the leadership team has been briefed. How are they taking it? I asked, surprised that I still cared. Shocked, but they're professionals. Your CTO, Sam, told me to tell you he gets it and to call him when you're ready. That brought a pang of real regret. Sam had been there from nearly the beginning. I owed him an explanation. Thank you, David, for everything. It's business, he replied, echoing Leo's cold words. Though for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. They left you no choice. The desperate messages from my family continued, though with less frequency. Their tone had shifted to legal threats. Leo, our lawyer says this sale can be challenged. You had a fiduciary duty to the board. Sophie, the company bylaws say you had to offer your shares to existing shareholders first. This is going to court. Mark, enjoy your little power trip. It's going to cost you everything. We're filing an injunction. I forwarded them all to Alina. Her reply was swift, empty threats. The sale was ironclad, they're just flailing. By the evening of the second day, a different kind of message started to arrive. They were from former colleagues, clients, even competitors. Some were shocked, but many offered quiet support. Heard the news. Call when you're ready. Whatever happened, I'm on your side. Jesse, my old CTO. Figured something was up when you canceled our lunch. No judgment. Take care of yourself. Maria, my first customer service hire. The industry won't be the same. Let me know if you need anything. Michael, a longtime client. These messages meant more than my family's threats ever could. These were the relationships built on respect and shared goals, not just blood. On the third day, a final email came from David. Legal team confirms all challenges from your family have been dismissed. Their employment is terminated with severance as agreed. Security protocols are still in place, but no new incidents. When you're ready to talk about what's next, I'd welcome the conversation. Your vision would be an asset here. It was a kind offer, but I knew I wouldn't take it. That part of my life was over. After 3 days of silence, I finally replied to Sam's message. I'm ready. Coffee tomorrow. Then I sent a single group text to my family. Riverside Cafe, tomorrow at 2 p.m. come alone. This is not a negotiation. It was time to face them, one last time. The Riverside Cafe was a quiet spot overlooking a park, far from the tech hub. I arrived 30 minutes early and chose a corner table with a clear view of the door. I had also arranged for one of David's security people to be sitting discreetly at the bar, just in case. Leo arrived first, exactly at 2:00 p.m. He was always punctual. His usually perfect appearance was a mess, wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. He saw me and his face hardened as he sat down. "Clara," he said, his voice stiff. Sophie and Mark came in together a few minutes later. Sophie's eyes were red and swollen. Mark just looked furious. An awkward silence hung over the table. I let it linger, studying them. The people I thought I knew. "Well," Leo finally broke the silence. "You called the meeting. What do you want?" "I want to understand," I said calmly. "I want you to explain to me why you decided to betray me." "Betray you?" Sophie's voice was shrill. "You sold the company out from under us without a single word." "Without a warning," I repeated, my voice steady. "Like the warning you were going to give me before you diluted my shares and fired me as CEO." Their faces flickered, shock, guilt, then a pivot to defiance. "I don't know what you think you heard," Leo started. "Stop," I cut him off. "I was there, Leo, last week. I came back from San Francisco early. I stood outside the boardroom and I heard everything. Every word about the file you were building against me. Every detail of your plan to steal my ownership. Every comment about how I was holding the company back." The color drained from their faces. They realized I had known everything. "You misunderstood," Leo tried weakly. "We were just exploring options. Options that involved stealing my company." I took out my phone and pressed play on the recording I had made. Their own voices filled the quiet cafe, clear and damning. "The documentation is airtight. She's lost her way. We call an emergency board meeting next week. By the time she can respond legally, it will be a done deal." I stopped the recording and looked at their horrified faces. "Still think I misunderstood?" Sophie broke down, tears streaming down her face. "We never wanted to hurt you, Clara. We just thought the company needed to change. You were so stuck." "My stuck vision built a multi-million-dollar company from an attic," I replied. "My vision gave the three of you jobs, equity you never earned, and a life you couldn't have imagined." "It wasn't personal," Mark insisted, echoing the words from their meeting. "It was just business." "It got personal the second my own family decided loyalty was less important than power," I said coldly. "And what do you call what you did?" Leo demanded, finding his voice. "You sold us out to our biggest rival. You walked away with millions and left us with nothing." "I protected myself after discovering your plot to leave me with nothing," I corrected him. "And you don't have nothing. The severance is generous. 6 months' salary, benefits. You'll be fine. Unlike the ceremonial, powerless role you had planned for me, where I'd have to watch you tear down everything I built." "We would have taken care of you," Sophie whispered. "Like you took care of me by documenting my every perceived failure, by having secret meetings with the board, by planning my ousting like a corporate coup." They had no answer. "I need to know why," I said, my voice softer. "Was it just greed? Or did you honestly believe I was failing?" Leo stared at the table. "It started small, just talk, how we could grow faster if you weren't so cautious. Then, it just became a plan, and it was exciting." "We convinced ourselves it was for the best," Sophie admitted, wiping her eyes. "For the company." "And for yourselves," I finished for her. "Yes," she whispered, "for ourselves too." Mark leaned forward. "So what now, Clara? Can this be undone?" I shook my head. "It's done. Sterling Dynamics is in control. Your jobs are gone. There's nothing left to work out." "Our shares?" Leo asked. "The 10%. "Still yours, worth about $14 million each at the sale price. You're not ruined, Leo." His eyes widened at the number. Even now, it was about the money. What about you? Sophie asked. Will you work for them? No, I'm done with Nexus Solutions. I'm done with all of it. Just like that, Leo sounded baffled. 10 years of your life and you just walk away. You left me no choice. I stood up. I've said what I needed to say. Don't contact me again. Not for money, not for advice, not for anything. As far as I'm concerned, this part of our family is over. Sophie let out a small sob. Leo's face was a mask of stone. Mark was already looking calculating, his mind on his next move. As I turned to leave, Leo called out, "Was it worth it? Tearing your family apart for revenge?" I paused and looked back at them. I didn't tear anything apart, Leo. You did, the moment you decided a company was worth more than your sister. I truly hope the money makes you happy, because in the end, that's all you have left of this. Then I walked out into the afternoon sun, feeling lighter with every step. The truth was out. The ties were cut. My future was finally my own. The fallout was messy for a few weeks. Tech blogs buzzed with headlines like asterisk family feud forces, surprise tech merger asterisk. For a moment, I was a minor celebrity in a tech industry soap opera. Some painted me as ruthless, others as a victim. The truth was somewhere in the middle. My family's legal challenges went nowhere, just as Alina predicted. I heard through the grapevine that Leo found a CFO job at a smaller firm. Sophie started consulting. Mark launched his own sales training company. They landed on their feet, cushioned by the severance and the value of their shares. I hadn't destroyed them. I had only protected myself. As for me, I vanished from the tech world. No interviews, no conferences, no social media. The first month was a blur of sleep and takeout. Alex was my rock, letting me heal in the quiet. He understood I needed to drift before I could find a new shore. Eventually, the fog lifted. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in entrepreneurial burnout. "You're grieving," she told me. "You lost your company, your identity, and your family all at once." She helped me understand that choosing to protect myself didn't mean I didn't mourn what was lost. I reconnected with old friends. I called my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister, who was unconnected to the drama. "I always thought those siblings of yours were a bit too impressed with themselves," she said dryly. Months later, I got an email from Sam, my former CTO. "Lunch next week. No agenda, just miss seeing you. We met at a small bistro, and it felt like old times." "Any regrets?" he asked. "No," I said. "It was the right call. I regret that it got to that point. But mostly, I regret giving 10 years of my life to a company that became more important than anything else." "So, what's next for the brilliant Clara Vance?" The question didn't fill me with anxiety anymore. It filled me with a flicker of excitement. "I'm not sure yet," I smiled, "but I'm starting to get some ideas." 6 months after the sale, I launched a small consulting firm. I didn't teach women how to code. I taught them how to protect themselves, how to structure deals, manage boards, and never lose control of what they built. I also started a small incubator, Ground Floor Ventures, to fund and mentor women-led startups. The work was more fulfilling than Nexus Solutions had been in years. Alex proposed on our 3rd anniversary. "I've watched you rebuild yourself," he said, holding a ring. "Stronger, wiser, and more brilliant than ever. I want to build a life with that woman." We got married 3 months later in a small ceremony with our closest friends. During our honeymoon, I got an email from Sophie. Subject, "When you're ready." She apologized, not for the consequences, but for the betrayal itself. She was in therapy, trying to understand the jealousy that had driven her. "I think I wanted to take your company because I could never be you asterisk," she wrote. "If someday you're willing to have coffee, I'd be grateful. If not, I understand." I read it 3 times. "Are you going to respond?" Alex asked. "Not yet," I said. "Maybe someday." A year after the sale, I heard Nexus Solutions was struggling. David had been replaced, and the new leadership was alienating the core customer base. Sam and other key engineers had left. I felt a strange mix of sadness and vindication, but mostly I felt detached. It wasn't my problem anymore. 2 years after I sold my company, I finally met Sophie for coffee. She looked different, quieter, but with a new clarity in her eyes. We talked for 2 hours, honestly, without the old agendas. We didn't talk about reconciling. Some things are too broken to be fixed, but we talked. "Will you ever speak to Leo or Mark again?" she asked. "I don't know," I said, "but they'd have to understand what they destroyed first, not just what they lost. They're still angry, still blaming me." "That's their choice," I said, feeling a sense of peace. "We all make our choices." Walking away from that coffee shop, I felt a sense of closure. The company I built from nothing was taken from me by the people I trusted most. But in losing it, I found something better, myself. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, I hope my story helps. Sometimes, our greatest triumphs come right after our worst failures. Sometimes, you have to lose what you thought was everything to find what really matters. And sometimes, the family you choose is far more loyal than the one you were born into. Have you ever had to walk away from something you built to save yourself? Share your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs to know they aren't alone. Remember, your value isn't defined by what people try to take from you. It's defined by what you choose to build in spite of them. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.